Mommy cries in the bathroom after work. The small voice cuts through the evening air like a shard of glass. Her boss makes her stay late, and sometimes she comes home with marks on her arms. Kieran Northmore freezes mid-sentence, his wine glass suspended halfway to his lips. The 7 council members seated around his mahogany table fall silent, their conversation about territorial disputes evaporating. His silver eyes, the unmistakable mark of vampire royalty, lock onto the child standing in the doorway of his study. She can't be more than 6 years old, all wild dark curls and enormous hazel eyes currently brimming with tears. "How did you get in here?" His voice is measured, careful. Children don't simply wander into the Northmore estate. His security system would make Fort Knox look like a public park. The little girl clutches a worn, stuffed rabbit to her chest. Through the garden door. It was open. Her bottom lip trembles. "I saw the big house and thought maybe someone important lived here. Someone who could help." Marcus, his head of security, appears behind the child, looking somewhere between mortified and impressed. "Your Majesty, I have no idea how she—" Kieran raises one hand, silencing him. He sets down his glass with deliberate precision and studies the small intruder. Her clothes are clean but threadbare. A faded purple jacket with a broken zipper. Sneakers with holes in the toes. There's a desperate determination in her expression that reminds him of soldiers he's known, people who've run out of options and decided to make one final stand. "What's your name?" he asks. "Lily." She takes a tentative step forward. "Lily Brennan. My mommy is Sage Brennan. She works at the diner on Maple Street, and her boss, Mr. Harwick, he's mean to her. He yells and makes her cry, and yesterday I saw bruises on her wrist shaped like fingers." The words tumble out in a rush, like she's afraid if she stops, she'll lose her nerve. "Mommy says we can't tell anyone because we need the money, and nobody would believe us anyway, because Mr. Harwick knows the police chief, but I thought maybe a king would be different." The temperature in the room drops several degrees. Kieran doesn't move, but something in his stillness makes the council members shift uneasily. "A king," he repeats softly. Lily nods earnestly. "Tommy at school said vampire kings are the most powerful people in the whole world, and they have to protect humans because of the old laws. Is that true? Are you really a king?" Several things happen in Kieran's mind simultaneously. First, he catalogs the relevant facts. A single mother working at Morrison's diner. He knows the place. A small establishment on the east side, human-owned, barely profitable. Second, he recalls Richard Harwick's face, a balding, heavy-set man with small eyes, and a reputation for skirting health code violations. Third, and most importantly, he recognizes the brand of desperation that would drive a child to break into a stranger's home begging for help. He's lived for 347 years. He's seen empires rise and fall. He's negotiated treaties and ended wars. But something about this child's courage, her absolute conviction that he will help because she's decided that's what kings do, strikes something deep in his chest that he'd thought was calcified beyond reach. "Marcus," Kieran says quietly, "have the council reschedule. Tell Jameson to prepare the car." He stands, his 6'4" frame unfolding with predatory grace. "And call ahead to Morrison's diner. I want to know exactly how many people are there right now and where they're positioned." The security chief blinks once, then nods sharply and pulls out his phone. Lily's eyes widen. "You're going to help? Right now?" Kieran retrieves his suit jacket from the back of his chair, charcoal wool that probably cost more than 3 months of a diner waitress's salary. "You came to a king for help. It would be remarkably poor form for me to refuse." He glances at Annabeth Crow, one of his most trusted council members, and the vampire representative for social services. "Stay with the child. Get her something to eat. Find out where she lives." Then he looks back at Lily, and his expression softens almost imperceptibly. "What's your mother's name again?" "Sage," Lily whispers. "Sage Brennan. She has brown hair and green eyes, and she's the nicest person in the whole world, only she's sad all the time now." "Not after tonight," Kieran says, and there's something in his voice that makes it sound less like a promise, and more like an immutable fact of reality. He's out the door before anyone can respond. The drive to Maple Street takes 17 minutes. Kieran spends them extracting information from Marcus's contacts. Sage Brennan, age 28. Widowed 3 years ago when her husband died in a construction accident. No family support system. working double shifts at Morrison's diner to keep her daughter in school and their small apartment heated. No criminal record, no outstanding debts beyond medical bills from her husband's final hospital stay. A model citizen trying to survive in a system that makes survival a form of punishment. Richard Harwick, age 52, married, 2 adult children who no longer speak to him. 3 previous complaints filed by former employees, all mysteriously withdrawn. Personal friends with Police Chief Davidson. Known to frequent underground gambling establishments and currently in debt to several unsavory organizations. The picture forms with crystalline clarity. Harwick is a small man with small power, the kind who enjoys wielding what little authority he has over people with no recourse, the kind who knows exactly how far he can push before something breaks. Kieran's hands tighten fractionally on his phone. He's faced down rogue vampire clans, negotiated with werewolf packs, and maintained peace across supernatural territories for over a century. But human cruelty of this variety, petty, mundane, hiding behind bureaucracy and social connections, ignites a particular kind of cold rage in his chest. The Northmore bloodline didn't survive 3 centuries by tolerating injustice. The old laws exist for a reason. Vampires are stronger, faster, and functionally immortal, which creates an obligation to protect those without such advantages. Some of his kind view this as a burden. Kieran has always considered it the price of power, one he pays willingly. "We're here, Your Majesty," Jameson says from the driver's seat. Morrison's diner squats beneath a flickering neon sign, its windows fogged with grease and steam. Through the streaked glass, Kieran can see perhaps a dozen customers scattered across red vinyl booths. Behind the counter, a woman moves with the efficient exhaustion of someone running on fumes and muscle memory. Sage Brennan. Even through the distortion of dirty windows and poor lighting, Kieran can see what Lily meant. She's lovely in an understated way, delicate features marked by weariness, brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, green eyes that probably sparkled once but now just look tired. She's wearing the diner's standard uniform, a pale blue dress with white trim that's been washed so many times the color has faded to something indefinable. As Kieran watches, a man emerges from the back, Harwick unmistakable from the photos, and says something sharp. Sage flinches, then nods, moving faster. Harwick's hand shoots out and grabs her wrist, his mouth forming words that make her face go pale. Kieran is out of the car before Jameson can shift into park. The bell above the diner door chimes with his entrance. Every head turns, conversations faltering. It's not just his height, or the way his suit costs more than most of these people make in 6 months. There's something else. Something indefinable that makes humans instinctively recognize Predator even when they can't articulate why. Sage looks up from where Harwick still has her wrist trapped. For a moment, their eyes meet across the dingy diner, and Kieran feels something slot into place in his chest with an almost audible click. Recognition. Not the superficial kind, not "I've seen you before." Something older, deeper. The kind of recognition that his kind, the long-lived, the immortal, experience perhaps once in several lifetimes. The sudden awareness that this person, this particular human, with her tired eyes and bruised wrist, and indomitable courage that she's passed to her daughter, matters in a way that will reshape everything. He's heard other vampires describe this moment. The claiming, some call it. The recognition. The undeniable pull. He's always been somewhat skeptical, figuring it for romanticism or wishful thinking. He's not skeptical anymore. "Good evening," Kieran says, his voice carrying effortlessly across the space. "I'm looking for Sage Brennan." Harwick drops Sage's wrist like it's burned him. His face cycles through several expressions: confusion, calculation, fear. Whatever else he is, he's not stupid enough to miss the danger currently standing in his establishment. Sage's lips part. That's me. Sage." Her voice is soft, musical despite the exhaustion. "Can I help you with something?" "Actually," Kieran says, moving toward the counter with measured steps, "I'm here to help you. Your daughter paid me a visit this evening." The blood drains from Sage's face. "Lily? Is she okay? Where is she?" "She's perfectly safe," Kieran assures her immediately, watching some of the panic recede from her eyes. She's at my home being fed cookies by my head of household staff and playing with what I'm told is a very patient golden retriever. He pauses. She broke in, actually. Quite impressive for a 6-year-old. You should be proud. Sage's hand flies to her mouth. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. She was supposed to be at Mrs. Chen's apartment. Our neighbor watches her when I work late. I don't know how she's spiraling, words tumbling faster. Please, whatever damage she caused, I'll pay for it. I just need to arrange a payment plan. Ms. Brennan, Kieran's voice cuts through her panic cleanly. I'm not here about property damage. I'm here because your daughter informed me that Mommy's boss hurts her after work, and that you come home with marks. She was quite specific about the bruises on your wrist, the ones shaped like fingers. The diner goes absolutely silent. Sage's eyes dart to Harwick, who has gone very still behind her. Don't, Harwick says sharply. Don't you dare. Mr. Harwick, Kieran says without looking at him. I strongly suggest you remain quiet while I'm speaking with your employee. Something in his tone, the absolute authority, the barely leashed danger, makes Harwick's mouth snap shut. One of the customers in the corner booth pulls out their phone, sensing drama. Kieran returns his attention to Sage. You're afraid, he says quietly, but in the silence, everyone hears it. Afraid of losing this job, afraid no one will believe you, afraid of retaliation. Your daughter mentioned Mr. Harwick's connection to the police chief. She's remarkably well informed for her age. Tears are forming in Sage's eyes now. Please, she whispers. I can't. I need this job. We need the insurance, the steady hours. Let me be very clear about something, Kieran says, and now his voice carries the weight of centuries, the authority of ancient bloodlines and power that predates modern civilization. I am Kieran Northmore. Perhaps you've heard the name. Based on the way several customers gasp, they certainly have. The Northmore family doesn't just rule vampire territories. They own property throughout the city, hold controlling interests in major corporations, and their name appears on hospital wings and university buildings. They're old money, old power, the kind of family that makes mayors return phone calls. Sage's eyes widen. You're the vampire king of the Northern Territories. Yes, Kieran confirms. And you are a human citizen under my jurisdiction, which means your protection falls under the old laws. Laws that supersede human police chiefs and their friendships with mediocre diner owners. He finally turns to face Harwick, who has gone gray. You, Kieran says softly, have approximately 30 seconds to explain why I shouldn't have you arrested for assault and battery. And please don't insult my intelligence by denying it. I can smell her fear, hear the elevated heart rate, and see the bruises you're clearly attempting to hide with that uniform. Harwick's mouth opens and closes. You can't just... Chief Davidson. We'll do exactly what I tell him, Kieran interrupts. As will the mayor, the district attorney, and anyone else you think might shield you from consequences. I've lived in this city for over a century. I helped write the integration laws that allow supernatural beings and humans to coexist. When I speak, people listen, Mr. Harwick. The question is, are you going to give me a reason to speak very loudly about your business practices, or are we going to resolve this quietly? I want a lawyer, Harwick says, trying for bravado and achieving something closer to panic. Fascinating. Kieran pulls out his phone with the unhurried confidence of someone who's already won. Marcus, contact Chief Davidson. Inform him I'm filing a formal complaint under old law protections regarding the assault of a human citizen. Yes, I'll hold. He looks at Harwick. You understand that under the old laws, I can claim right of protection over any human I deem at risk? It's an ancient provision, originally designed to prevent rogue vampires from treating humans as prey, but it applies equally to human-on-human violence within our territories. Sage is shaking now, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand what's happening. Kieran's expression softens as he looks at her. What's happening is that you don't have to be afraid anymore. What's happening is that your daughter is braver than most adults I've met, and she refuses to watch you suffer. What's happening is that you're under my protection now, which means anyone who harms you answers to me. But I'm nobody, Sage whispers. I'm just a waitress. I'm nothing. Why would you... You're Lily's mother. Kieran says simply. That alone makes you worthy of protection, but more than that. He pauses, considering how much to reveal in this moment, in this grimy diner with its audience of shocked customers. You're someone who's been shouldering an impossible burden with grace and courage. You're someone who's survived grief and hardship and kept going for your child. And you're someone who, as of this moment, has the full weight of the Northmore family's resources behind her. Chief Davidson's voice crackles through the phone. Kieran raises it to his ear, never breaking eye contact with Sage. Ray, yes, I'm at Morrison's Diner on Maple Street. I need you to send a car. I'm making a formal claim of protection over Sage Brennan under Old Law Statute 47B, and I'm filing assault charges against Richard Harwick. A pause. I'm aware of your friendship. I suggest you decide whether that friendship is worth more than your career. Another pause. I thought you might see it that way. We'll be waiting. He ends the call. You can't do this, Harwick says, but his voice has lost all its bluster. I'll sue. You'll do nothing, Kieran says flatly. Because I'm going to make you an offer, Mr. Harwick. You can cooperate, close this establishment, sell it to me at market value, and relocate to a different territory where you'll find employment that doesn't involve power over vulnerable people. Or I can make your life extremely difficult. And when I say extremely difficult, understand that I mean I will scrutinize every aspect of your business, your taxes, your debts, and your personal life, with the kind of attention that tends to uncover all sorts of interesting irregularities. Gambling debts, for instance, health code violations, that incident with the supplier kickbacks you thought no one knew about. Harwick's face goes from gray to green. How did you... I'm 347 years old, Kieran says. I didn't survive this long by being uninformed. So, which option appeals to you more? The fight drains out of Harwick like water from a broken glass. I'll sell, he mutters. I'll cooperate. Excellent choice. Kieran turns back to Sage, who looks like she's been hit with a 2x4. Ms. Brennan, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. Did Richard Harwick physically assault you? Sage's eyes dart around the diner, at the customers watching, at her soon-to-be former boss, at this impossibly powerful man who's just upended her entire existence in the space of 5 minutes. Kieran can see the war in her expression, years of conditioning telling her to stay quiet, to not make waves, to protect herself by being invisible. Then something shifts in her face. Maybe it's thinking about Lily, brave enough to break into a stranger's home. Maybe it's exhaustion, the tiredness of carrying fear for so long. Maybe it's the way Kieran is looking at her like she matters, like her truth matters. Yes, she says, her voice stronger than before. Yes, he did, multiple times. He grabbed my wrist yesterday when I asked if I could leave on time for once. 2 weeks ago, he shoved me against the walk-in freezer when I accidentally gave a customer the wrong order. Last month, her voice cracks. Last month, he cornered me in the storage room and touched my face and said I should be grateful he was so forgiving when I made mistakes because nobody else would employ someone like me. The temperature in the diner plummets. Kieran doesn't move, but several customers lean away from him instinctively, responding to something primal and dangerous in his stillness. Someone like you, Kieran repeats, his voice like silk over steel. And what precisely did he mean by that? Poor, desperate, nobody. Sage swipes at her tears with the back of her hand. He said I was lucky to have this job, and if I didn't like how he ran things, there were plenty of other single mothers who'd be happy to replace me. One of the other waitresses, a younger woman with purple streaks in her hair, stands up from where she's been frozen by the coffee station. He did the same to me, she says shakily. Last year. I quit because my boyfriend threatened to beat him up, but I couldn't afford to report it officially because I needed the reference for my next job. An older customer in the corner booth speaks up. I've seen him grab the girls working here. Thought about saying something, but... He trails off, looking ashamed. Figured it wasn't my business. Kieran looks around the diner, at these witnesses who are finally speaking up now that someone with power is listening. This, he thinks, is the insidious nature of people like Harwick. They don't just harm their direct victims. They create entire ecosystems of silence, where everyone knows something is wrong but feels powerless to stop it. It's your business now, Kieran says to the older man, and the business of everyone here who's witnessed his behavior. When the police arrive, I expect full cooperation with their investigation. In return, I'll make certain there's no retaliation. You have my word. The sound of sirens cuts through the air. Red and blue lights wash across the diner's windows. Kieran doesn't look away from Sage. "Do you want to press charges?" he asks her quietly. "I can't make that decision for you, but I can promise you'll be protected regardless of your choice." Sage looks at Harwick, really looks at him, maybe for the first time without fear clouding her vision. He looks smaller now, diminished. Just a man, not the monster who's haunted her for months. "Yes," she says firmly. "I want to press charges." The pride that blooms in Kieran's chest is surprisingly intense. Good. The next hour passes in a blur of activity. Chief Davidson arrives looking deeply uncomfortable, followed by 2 patrol officers who take statements from Sage, the other waitress, and several customers. Harwick is read his rights and led out in handcuffs, sputtering about lawyers and false accusations, but everyone in the diner can see the way his protests ring hollow against the weight of multiple testimonies. Kieran stays by Sage's side through all of it, a silent presence that makes the police treat her with careful respect. When she falters in her statement, he's there. When she starts shaking, he offers her his suit jacket without a word, and she accepts it, wrapping herself in fabric that smells like expensive cologne, and something else, something wild and ancient that makes her feel inexplicably safe. "I need to get Lily," Sage says once the police have finished. "I need to see her, make sure she's—" "Of course," Kieran says. "My car is outside. Jameson will drive us to the estate." Sage blinks at him. "The estate?" "Where your daughter is currently beating my head of security at Checkers, if Marcus's last text is accurate." Kieran's lips quirk in something that might be amusement. "She's quite insistent that she won't leave until she knows you're safe." Fresh tears spring to Sage's eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry she bothered you, that she broke into your home." "Stop apologizing," Kieran says, not unkindly. "Your daughter's courage probably saved your life tonight." Harwick's behavior was escalating. Eventually, he would have gone too far. He pauses. "And she didn't bother me. She reminded me why I do what I do." Sage looks up at him. She has to tilt her head back significantly, given their height difference, and Kieran sees her really seeing him for the first time. Not the vampire king, not the powerful nobleman, just him. Kieran, who has lived for centuries, but suddenly feels oddly uncertain under this tired waitress's green-eyed gaze. "Thank you," she whispers. "I don't know how I'll ever repay—" "There's no debt," Kieran interrupts. "Protection isn't a transaction." "Then what is it?" He considers this. "A responsibility. And in this case—" He stops, unsure how to articulate the feeling in his chest. This sense of rightness that settled over him the moment he saw her through the diner window. Something I'm choosing to give freely. Understanding flickers in Sage's expression, something that makes his breath catch, despite not technically needing to breathe. Then she nods, tugging his jacket tighter around her shoulders, and follows him out into the night. The Northmore estate looks like something from a fairy tale, all stone and ivy, and warm lights glowing in windows. Sage presses her face to the car window like a child, taking in the manicured gardens and fountain, and sheer impossible elegance of it all. "You live here?" she breathes. "For the last 80 years, Kieran confirms. "Before that, I had a place downtown, but it got demolished to make way for the highway expansion." "Oh, right, the highway that went in during the 50s. Sage pauses. "You were already alive then." "Technically, I'm not alive now," Kieran says dryly. "But yes, I was already extant." She looks at him, this man, this vampire, who has existed for longer than her great-grandparents. "Does it ever get lonely?" The question surprises him with its perceptiveness. "Sometimes," he admits, "immortality has its drawbacks." Before she can respond, the car stops, and the front door of the estate bursts open. Lily comes flying down the steps, her stuffed rabbit forgotten on the porch, her face lighting up like Christmas morning. "Mommy!" She slams into Sage's legs hard enough to make her stumble. "You're okay! The king saved you, right? He made the bad man go away?" Sage drops to her knees, gathering her daughter close, and Kieran has to look away from the intimacy of it. The fierce love in Sage's face, the way Lily burrows into her mother's arms like she can crawl inside her skin, the soft sounds of relief and reassurance. It's private in a way that makes his chest ache. "Yeah, baby," Sage says thickly. "Yeah, he did. But Lily, you can't run away like that. You could have been hurt. You scared me so much. I had to, Lily says seriously. You kept crying, and that man kept being mean, and I remembered what Tommy said about vampire kings having to help people, so I found the biggest house I could see, and I came here, and I was right, Mommy. I was right, because Mr. Northmore helped. King, Marcus says from the doorway, looking amused. She insists on calling you King Northmore. We've explained about your majesty, but she says king is more respectful. Kieran finds himself smiling despite everything. King is fine. Sage stands, lifting Lily onto her hip despite the girl's age. We should go. We've taken up enough of your time, and it's late, and… No, Kieran says. Sage freezes. No? You're not going back to your apartment tonight. Kieran's tone brooks no argument. Harwick is in custody, but he has friends, contacts. Until I'm certain there's no risk of retaliation, you're staying here. Both of you. We can't possibly… You can, and you will. Kieran moves closer, and Sage has to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. I claimed protection over you, Ms. Brennan. That's not a temporary measure or a legal fiction. It means you're under my care until the threat is resolved. And before you argue about imposing or charity… He sees the protest forming on her lips. Understand that having you here makes my job easier. I can ensure your safety personally, rather than relying on secondary measures. I don't have clothes, Sage says weakly. Lily needs her school things, and I have to call Mrs. Chen, and Marcus will arrange for everything you need to be delivered, Kieran says. We'll contact your neighbor tonight. Lily can attend the private academy on the grounds tomorrow if necessary, though honestly, given the circumstances, a day or two away from school won't hurt. We can reassess the situation in the morning. Sage looks torn between gratitude and embarrassment. Kieran recognizes the expression. The same pride that wouldn't let her report Harwick is now balking at accepting help that feels too generous, too much like charity. This isn't pity, he says quietly, pitching his voice low enough that Lily won't hear. This is me ensuring that when I wake up tomorrow, you're still alive and safe. That's not charity. That's selfishness, dressed in courtesy. Why? Sage whispers. Why do you care so much? You don't know me. Kieran meets her eyes. I don't have a good answer for that yet. But I care. That will have to be enough for now. Something passes between them. Recognition. Connection. The first fragile thread of trust. Then Lily yawns dramatically, and Sage's maternal instincts override everything else. Okay, she says. Okay, we'll stay. But just for tonight. Kieran doesn't correct her assumption that it will only be one night. Time enough to address that tomorrow, when she's rested, and the adrenaline has worn off, and he can explain that protection, in this case, might be considerably more permanent than she's anticipating. Because somewhere between watching her hold her daughter and seeing the way she squared her shoulders to testify against her abuser, Kieran has made a decision. Sage Brennan walked into his awareness tonight as a stranger, a duty, a human under his protection. She's not going to leave as any of those things. The guest suite they're given is larger than Sage's entire apartment. 2 bedrooms connected by a sitting area, bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people, and windows overlooking gardens that probably employ more groundskeepers than the diner had total staff. Lily is asleep almost immediately, curled up in a bed with sheets that feel like silk, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. Sage sits beside her for a long time, stroking her daughter's hair, processing everything that's happened in the last 3 hours. She was at work. Harwick grabbed her wrist. Now she's in a vampire king's estate wearing a borrowed nightgown that probably costs more than her monthly rent, and her daughter's bravery has somehow resulted in the complete upheaval of their lives. A soft knock at the door. Sage tenses, then relaxes when she sees it's a woman. Annabeth Crow, she'd been introduced as one of Kieran's council members. She's beautiful in a sharp way, with dark skin and silver-streaked hair pulled back in an elegant knot. I thought you might like some tea, Annabeth says, carrying a tray. And perhaps some company, if you're not too tired. Sage glances at Lily, deeply asleep, and steps into the sitting area, pulling the bedroom door mostly closed. I should be exhausted, she admits, accepting the tea. But I'm too wired to sleep. Understandable. You've had quite a night. Annabeth settles into one of the armchairs with her own cup. I wanted to speak with you while Kieran is occupied with security arrangements. Sage tenses again. Is something wrong? No, nothing like that. Annabeth's smile is reassuring. I wanted to explain a few things about what happened tonight, about what Kieran did when he claimed protection over you. He said it was an old law thing. It is, but it's also more than that. Annabeth sets down her cup. The protection claim is legally binding. It means Kieran is personally responsible for your welfare. But Ms. Brennan, Sage, he doesn't invoke that law lightly. In the century I've known him, I've seen him use it perhaps 3 times. It's not a casual gesture. Sage's heart is beating faster. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw the way he looked at you in that diner, Annabeth says gently. And I know what it means. Kieran Northmore is the most controlled, measured person I've ever met. He doesn't act impulsively. He certainly doesn't make declarations of protection over strangers based solely on a child's plea for help, no matter how compelling. I don't understand. I think you do. Annabeth's gaze is knowing, but you're not ready to hear it yet, which is fine. You've been through enough tonight. I just wanted you to know, whatever happens next, whatever Kieran offers or suggests, it's coming from a genuine place. He's not playing games, and he's not going to hurt you. If anything, he's more likely to tie himself in knots trying to do right by you. Sage stares at her tea. I'm nobody, she says for the 2nd time that night. I'm a widowed waitress with a 6-year-old in medical debt and no prospects. Why would someone like him? Because hearts don't care about resumes, Annabeth interrupts. And because your daughter has more courage than most adults, which means you're doing something very right as a mother. And because... She leans forward. There's a reason the old stories talk about vampire kings and mortal women. When we live as long as we do, Sage, most things become mundane. Most people blur together. But every few centuries, someone comes along who reminds us what it feels like to care, to want, to protect, not out of duty, but out of something deeper. You're trying to tell me he's attracted to me, Sage says flatly. A man, a vampire, who looks like he does, who could have literally anyone, is interested in me. I'm telling you he recognized something in you, Annabeth corrects. Whether that becomes attraction or something more, that's for the 2 of you to figure out. But yes, Sage, he's interested. And before you spiral into all the reasons why that's impossible, or inappropriate, or temporary, take a breath. Let yourself rest. Tomorrow will come soon enough. After Annabeth leaves, Sage sits in the darkness for a long time, thinking about impossible things. She wakes to sunlight streaming through windows she doesn't recognize, in sheets that aren't hers, and for a moment, panic floods her system. Then she remembers. The diner, Kieran, the protection claim. Lily. Sage bolts upright and rushes to the connecting room, then sags with relief when she sees her daughter still sleeping peacefully, morning light turning her dark curls golden. A note has been slipped under the main door. Sage retrieves it, recognizing the elegant handwriting from the legal documents she'd signed last night with the police. Breakfast is available in the conservatory whenever you wake. Take the main stairs down and follow the sound of music. K. Follow the sound of music. Right? Because this is apparently her life now, living in a mansion where she navigates by listening for mysterious melodies. But when she opens the door, after finding fresh clothes laid out in her size, which should probably concern her, but mostly just makes her grateful, she does hear music. Piano, she thinks. Something classical that tugs at memories of her mother playing old records when Sage was young. The conservatory is less a room and more a garden that happens to have a roof. Glass walls curve overhead, letting in morning light that makes everything glow. There are trees growing inside, actual trees, and a small fountain, and comfortable furniture scattered throughout. And in the corner, a grand piano where Kieran sits playing. He's wearing casual clothes, dark jeans, and a gray sweater that somehow makes him look both more approachable and more dangerous. His silver eyes are closed as his hands move across the keys, and Sage stands frozen in the doorway, caught by the unexpected intimacy of watching him like this. Then his eyes open, finding her immediately, and he stops playing. "Good morning," he says. "I hope you slept well." "Better than I have in months," Sage admits, moving into the room. "That bed is... I'm pretty sure I fell asleep on a cloud." "The mattresses are custom-made in Sweden," Kieran says. "Obscenely expensive, but I've found that investing in quality sleep is worthwhile." He stands. Are you hungry? As if in answer, Sage's stomach growls loudly. She flushes. Yes. I haven't eaten since lunch yesterday. Something dark flashes in Kieran's eyes. He didn't let you take a dinner break. It's not a question. Sage shakes her head. He said if I wanted to leave on time for once, I could skip my break. He's lucky he's already in custody, Kieran murmurs. Otherwise, I'd be tempted to revisit our conversation. He gestures to a table laden with more food than Sage has seen outside a buffet. Please, eat. She does, trying not to embarrass herself by wolfing down the fresh fruit and pastries and eggs that somehow taste better than anything she's ever made. Kieran sits across from her with his own coffee, watching her with an expression she can't quite read. What happens now? Sage asks between bites. I mean, legally, with Harwick and the diner and everything. Harwick will be processed through the legal system, Kieran says. The assault charges are solid, and I've ensured that the district attorney assigned to the case is someone with a strong track record on workplace harassment. The diner is being sold to me, as we discussed. I plan to either renovate it and reopen with proper management, or convert it into something else useful for the neighborhood. And me? Sage's voice comes out smaller than she intends. What happens to me? Kieran sets down his coffee cup with careful precision. That depends on what you want. But first, I have a question. What did you do before you were a waitress? The question surprises her. I was in school, community college, studying early childhood education. I wanted to be a teacher, work with kids Lily's age. But when Michael died, her throat tightens. The medical bills, the funeral, keeping the apartment. I had to drop out, pick up whatever work I could find. And if money wasn't a concern? Kieran asks. If you could do anything, what would you choose? Sage laughs bitterly. Money is always a concern. Humor me. She studies him, trying to figure out what he wants to hear. But his expression is open, genuinely curious. So she tells him the truth. I'd finish my degree, get my teaching certification, maybe work at a school that actually cares about the kids, not just test scores. Come home at a reasonable hour and have dinner with Lily, help her with homework, read her stories before bed. Live in a place where the heat works in winter, and I'm not terrified of being evicted if I'm short on rent. Take her to the park on weekends. Normal things. She swallows hard. Boring, normal, impossible things. Kieran is quiet for a long moment. What if I told you those things aren't impossible? Then I'd say you don't understand how the world works for people like me. Perhaps. He leans forward. Or perhaps the world can work differently when you have resources. Sage, I want to make you an offer, and before you refuse out of pride or fear or habit, I want you to really think about it. Her heart is hammering. What kind of offer? I need someone to manage a new project I'm developing, Kieran says. A community center for the neighborhood where the diner is located. After-school programs, adult education classes, resources for families in need. It will require someone who understands that community, who has experienced their struggles firsthand. Someone with the kind of courage and integrity that doesn't come from privilege. Sage stares at him. You want to hire me. I want to offer you a job as the Director of Community Outreach, Kieran clarifies. It would include a competitive salary, benefits, housing assistance, and tuition reimbursement if you want to complete your degree. The position would start immediately. There's office work to be done while the center is being built, and you'd have input on every aspect of the project. It's too much, too perfect. Sage feels tears burning her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because you're right that you understand that community in ways I never could, Kieran says. Because you're clearly intelligent and capable, and wasting your potential serving coffee to ungrateful customers. And because, he pauses, because I want to. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters. His silver eyes hold hers. I'm not offering this as charity, Sage. I genuinely believe you're the right person for this position, but I'd be lying if I said my motives were purely professional. Her breath catches. What are your motives? I'd like the opportunity to know you better, Kieran says quietly. Without the power imbalance of you being dependent on me for protection, you'd have your own income, your own apartment through the housing assistance program, your own life. You wouldn't owe me anything beyond competent work performance. But we'd see each other regularly. We'd work together, and perhaps He stops, seeming to choose his words carefully. Perhaps we could discover if this feeling that's currently making it difficult for me to think about much, besides your well-being, is mutual, or simply my own delusion. Sage can't breathe. This impossibly attractive, powerful, ancient vampire has just confessed to being interested in her while simultaneously offering her everything she's dreamed of. Independence, security, meaningful work, a future for Lily, without strings attached. It can't be real. I don't understand, she whispers. You don't know me. We've spent maybe 2 hours together. How can you possibly? 347 years, Kieran interrupts. That's how long I've been alive. In that time, I've met thousands upon thousands of people. And in all those years, I have never felt what I felt last night when I walked into that diner and saw you. He stands, moving around the table but stopping a careful distance away, giving her space. I'm not asking for anything immediate. I'm not pressuring you for romance or demanding gratitude. I'm simply being honest about my interest and asking if you'd be willing to explore whether it's reciprocated. This is insane, Sage says. This doesn't happen to people like me. People like you, Kieran repeats. Tell me, what makes you think you're less worthy of good fortune than anyone else? She opens her mouth to respond, to list all the ways she's ordinary, unremarkable, forgettable. But the words die in her throat. Because the way he's looking at her, the intensity of his focus makes her feel anything but forgettable. I'm scared, she admits finally. I'm scared this is a dream, and I'll wake up back in my apartment with Harwick's handprint bruised into my wrist. I'm scared you'll realize I'm not special and lose interest. I'm scared of depending on someone again and losing them. I'm scared, her voice breaks. I'm scared of hoping. Kieran's expression softens. Those are reasonable fears, and I can't promise to erase them, but I can promise that this isn't a dream, that I see exactly who you are, and that I have no intention of going anywhere. He extends his hand, palm up, an invitation. Take the job, Sage. Move into the housing we provide. Let me help you finish your degree. Give yourself the future you deserve. The rest, us, can unfold however it unfolds. No pressure, no expectations beyond professional competence. Sage looks at his hand. She thinks about Lily, brave enough to break into a stranger's home because she believed in the goodness of kings. She thinks about her own mother, who once told her that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing the right thing despite it. She thinks about the fact that she's been surviving for so long. She's forgotten how to live. Slowly, she places her hand in his. His fingers close around hers, careful, warm despite his undead status. And something electric passes between them at the touch. Okay, Sage breathes. Okay, I'll take the job. I'll accept your help. But Kieran? She looks up at him. I need you to understand that I'm not some romance novel heroine waiting to be rescued. I'm a real person with trauma and baggage, and a kid who comes first, always. If this thing between us is real, it's going to be complicated, and messy, and probably difficult. I'm 347 years old, Kieran says, and there's something that might be amusement in his voice. I think I can handle complicated. Before she can respond, the conservatory door bursts open and Lily comes tearing in, still wearing her pajamas, her hair a bird's nest of tangles. Mommy, the nice lady said there are horses. Real horses, can we see them? Please, please, please. Kieran releases Sage's hand, stepping back smoothly. We do have stables, he confirms. Though I should warn you, the horses are quite spoiled, and will expect treats. Lily's eyes go wide. You have horses? Are you a king or a prince? Because I think princes have horses, and kings have castles, but you have both, so maybe you're both? That's a complex metaphysical question, Kieran says seriously. Perhaps we can discuss it while we visit the stables. Sage watches her daughter look at Kieran with absolute trust, chattering about horses and castles. And could they maybe also see the golden retriever again, because she didn't get to play with him enough last night? And she watches Kieran listen with genuine attention, responding to Lily's questions with the same gravity he probably uses in council meetings. This is real, she thinks. This is actually happening. For the first time in 3 years, Sage allows herself to feel something she'd locked away when Michael died. Hope. The next 3 weeks pass in a blur of controlled chaos. Sage moves into a small but beautiful apartment in a building Kieran's company owns, close to good schools and safe neighborhoods. She enrolls Lily in the local elementary school, where her daughter makes friends with an ease that makes Sage's heart ache with relief. She starts her new job, working with architects and community organizers to plan the center. It's challenging and occasionally overwhelming, but Kieran's team supports her, and slowly, Sage begins to recognize her own competence. Her ideas matter. Her experience has value. She also enrolls back in school, online classes that she can complete around work and parenting. It's exhausting, but it's the good kind of exhausting. The kind that comes from building something rather than just surviving. And through it all, there's Kieran. He appears at odd moments, bringing coffee when she's drowning in blueprints, taking Lily to the park so Sage can study for exams, showing up at school events because he happened to be in the area. He never pushes, never demands more than she's willing to give. But his presence is constant, solid, a reminder that she's not alone anymore. Slowly, carefully, Sage's walls begin to crumble. It happens in small moments, Kieran's hand at the small of her back as they tour the construction site. The way he remembers, she takes her coffee with cream but no sugar. The evening he finds her crying over her laptop because she's convinced she's going to fail her developmental psychology exam, and he sits beside her for 3 hours, quizzing her on material until she knows it backward and forward. "You're going to pass," he says with absolute certainty when she finally closes the textbook at midnight. "How do you know?" Sage asks, exhausted and grateful, and something else she's not quite ready to name. "Because you're brilliant," Kieran says simply, "and because you've never failed at anything you've actually cared about. You're just not used to believing in yourself yet." The exam results come back. She got an A. The community center's grand opening happens on a Saturday in early December. Sage stands in the main room, freshly painted, filled with new furniture and supplies, and feels something like pride swell in her chest. This place exists because of her. Because Kieran believed in her, yes, but also because she did the work. She made it happen. The neighborhood turns out in force. Families she recognizes from her diner days, kids who will benefit from the after-school programs, older residents excited about the adult education offerings. There are speeches and ribbon cuttings and a general atmosphere of celebration that makes Sage's eyes sting with grateful tears. Kieran appears at her elbow during a quiet moment, offering her a glass of champagne. "You should be proud," he says. "This is remarkable." "We did this together," Sage corrects. "I provided funding and resources," Kieran says. "You provided the vision and the heart. There's a difference." Before she can respond, the mayor approaches, wanting to introduce Kieran to someone, and he's pulled away with an apologetic glance. Sage watches him go. This impossible man who's become central to her life in such a short time. She's falling in love with him. The realization hits her with the force of a freight train. She's in love with Kieran Northmore, the Vampire King. The man who walked into her life because her brave daughter believed in fairy tales, and who's been quietly, patiently proving that maybe fairy tales aren't as impossible as Sage thought. "He loves you too, you know." Sage turns to find Annabeth beside her, elegant in a deep blue dress. "I don't—" "Please," Annabeth says with affectionate amusement. "I've known Kieran for a century. I've never seen him like this." The man rearranged his entire schedule to attend Lily's school play last week. He's learning about child development psychology, so he can have informed conversations with you about your coursework. He installed a heated pool in his estate because you mentioned once that you used to swim in college and missed it. Sage's breath catches. "He did what?" "Heated pool. Finished construction last Tuesday. He was planning to surprise you with it this weekend." Annabeth's smile is knowing. That's not obligation or charity, Sage. That's a man falling absolutely, irrevocably in love and having no idea how to articulate it except through gestures. "I'm still scared," Sage whispers. "Of course you are. Love is terrifying. But that man," Annabeth nods toward where Kieran is speaking with the mayor, "would burn the world down before he let anything hurt you or your daughter. The question isn't whether he's worthy of your trust. It's whether you're brave enough to take the leap." Later that night, after the crowd has dispersed and Lily is asleep at home with a trusted babysitter, Sage finds Kieran on the center's roof deck. He's standing at the railing, looking out over the neighborhood, and something about his posture makes him look lonely, despite being surrounded by the evidence of his generosity. "Thank you," Sage says, joining him at the railing. "For what?" "All of it. The job, the apartment, the center, being patient with me. She pauses. The heated pool. Kieran's lips quirk. Annabeth has a big mouth. She cares about you. We both do. He turns to face her, and the vulnerability in his expression steals her breath. Sage, I'm in love with you, she interrupts, the words tumbling out before courage deserts her. I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe it was the first night when you stood in that diner and made me feel like I mattered. Maybe it was watching you play checkers with my daughter. Maybe it was the coffee and the studying and the 1,000 small kindnesses you've shown me. But I'm in love with you, and I'm terrified. But I'm also tired of being afraid. Kieran closes the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands coming up to frame her face with a gentleness that seems impossible from someone so powerful. I have loved you, he says carefully, since the moment you told Harwick you wanted to press charges. When you looked at him without fear and chose to be brave. I've spent 3 centuries waiting for someone who makes me feel the way you do. Alive, purposeful, capable of being more than just a king. You are extraordinary, Sage Brennan, and if you'll have me, if you will let me, I will spend the rest of your life proving that you deserve everything good this world has to offer. The rest of my life, Sage repeats. Not yours. Something pained flashes across his face. I can't change what I am. I'm immortal, and you're human, and eventually we'll figure it out, Sage interrupts. I've learned not to borrow trouble from the future. Right now, in this moment, I love you, and you love me. And that's enough. Is it? Kieran's voice is rough. Is it truly enough, knowing that I'll watch you age while I remain unchanged? Do you want me to love you? Sage asks. More than I've wanted anything in 3 centuries. Then kiss me, she says. Stop thinking about everything that could go wrong and just kiss me. He does. The kiss is gentle at first, tentative, almost reverent, like he's afraid she'll break. But when Sage makes a soft sound of encouragement and presses closer, it deepens into something that makes her forget they're standing on a roof deck in December. His hands slide into her hair, and hers clutch at his shoulders, and for a perfect moment nothing exists except this. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard. Well, she's breathing hard, he's faking it for her benefit. Kieran rests his forehead against hers. I love you, he says. I will never stop loving you. And whatever time we have, human lifetime or otherwise, I will treasure every moment. Otherwise. Sage pulls back slightly. What does that mean? Kieran hesitates. There are ways, for vampires and their chosen humans, methods of extending life, sharing immortality, but they're complex and permanent and not decisions to be made lightly. Are you saying you could turn me into a vampire? Eventually, if you wanted. But Sage, that's not a conversation for tonight. That's a conversation for after you've finished your degree and watched Lily grow and lived more of your human life. I won't take that from you with pressure or urgency. Sage considers this, the possibility of forever with him, of not having to face the eventual loss that terrifies her, but also the weight of that choice, the permanence of it. You're right, she says finally. That's a future conversation. For now, I just want this, you and me, and figuring out what we're building together. I can work with that, Kieran murmurs, and kisses her again. 6 months later, Sage stands in front of her university's graduating class, accepting her degree in early childhood education. The ceremony is small, unremarkable to everyone except her. But when she walks across that stage, she sees Kieran and Lily in the 3rd row, both cheering embarrassingly loud, and she has to fight back tears. She did it. She actually did it. After the ceremony, Lily presents her with a handmade card that says, "Congratulations, Mommy," in crayon. Kieran presents her with a small velvet box. It's not what you think, he says quickly when he sees her expression. I know we agreed to take things slow. Inside is a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny book with teacher engraved on it. For your first position, Kieran says, which, if you're interested, is at the academy on my estate. The current early childhood educator is retiring, and the position is yours if you want it. Sage looks up at him, this man who keeps finding ways to support her dreams without overshadowing them. Are you going to make a habit of offering me jobs? Only positions you're genuinely qualified for, Kieran says seriously, and only when they align with your goals. I have it on good authority that you've wanted to work at that academy since you toured it with Lily. I told you that once, Sage says. 4 months ago, in passing. I remember everything you tell me. Lily tugs on Kieran's sleeve. Does this mean we could live at the castle? Like, all the time? Because that would be really cool, and also you have the best library, and Miss Clara said I could read any book I wanted if I lived there. Kieran looks at Sage, a question in his eyes. They've been officially dating for 6 months, but they've maintained separate residences, taking things slow for Lily's sake. But the three of them have spent countless weekends at the estate, and Sage can't deny that it started to feel like home. We could, Sage says carefully, if that's what everyone wants. But Lily, you understand that Kieran and I would be together? Like, really together? You mean like you'd get married and stuff? Lily looks delighted. Yes! Then Kieran would be my stepdad and I'd have a dad again, and we'd be a real family. Sage's eyes fill with tears. Baby, we're already a real family. The three of us. Even if Kieran and I never get married, even if we don't live together, we're family because we love each other. I know, Lily says with the confidence of a 7-year-old who's already figured out all of life's important truths. But it would still be cool to live in the castle. Kieran laughs, genuine, unguarded laughter that makes Sage's heart swell. I suppose I can't argue with that logic. He looks at Sage. What do you say? Would you and Lily consider making the estate your permanent home? No pressure, no expectations beyond what we already have. Just together. Sage thinks about the apartment she's made into a home, the independence she's fought for, but she also thinks about the nights they've spent at the estate, Lily asleep in her designated room while Sage and Kieran talk until dawn in the conservatory. She thinks about the way the staff has embraced Lily, the way Marcus teaches her chess and Annabeth brings her books. She thinks about the life they're building, messy and unconventional and absolutely perfect. Yes, she says. Yes, we'll move in, on one condition. Anything. You let me pay rent or contribute somehow. I'm not a charity case, Kieran. I have a good job, one you're about to make even better, and I need to contribute. How about this? Kieran counters. You oversee the estate's charitable foundation. It requires someone with your understanding of community needs and resource allocation. It's a paid position, and you can put your salary toward household expenses if that makes you feel better about the arrangement. It's a compromise, and they both know it. But it's one Sage can live with. Deal, she says. Lily cheers. Kieran smiles. And Sage takes a mental snapshot of this moment, graduation day, job offer, moving in together, and tucks it away with all the other impossible, wonderful things that have happened since her brave daughter broke into a vampire king's home and changed their lives forever. The wedding happens a year later, small and intimate in the estate gardens. Sage wears a simple cream dress. Lily serves as flower girl in a purple gown that makes her look like a princess. And Kieran stands at the altar, looking at Sage like she hung the moon. When the officiant asks if anyone objects, Lily pipes up with, I object to waiting any longer because I'm starving and there's supposed to be cake, which makes everyone laugh and breaks the nervous tension Sage didn't realize she was carrying. They exchange vows they wrote themselves. Kieran promises to love her in all her humanity, to never take her choices, to honor the life she's built. Sage promises to be brave, to trust him with her fears, to build a future together that honors both their natures. When they kiss, their friends and family cheer, and Sage thinks about how far they've come from that night in the diner. How a little girl's courage and a vampire king's integrity led to this. A family, a love, a life beyond anything she'd dared to dream. I love you, Kieran whispers against her lips. I love you, too, Sage whispers back. My king. He smiles, that rare, unguarded smile she's learned to treasure. Just Kieran. Always just Kieran to you. Just Kieran, she agrees, who happens to be the king of my heart. It's cheesy and romantic and probably too sentimental, but it's also true. And as they walk back down the aisle together, Lily dancing ahead of them and their loved ones celebrating around them, Sage understands that fairy tales don't always look like the stories suggest. Sometimes they look like a terrified woman and an ancient vampire finding each other in a dingy diner. Sometimes they look like choosing to be brave when everything tells you to stay quiet. Sometimes they look like building a life together, moment by moment, choice by choice, until you look back and realize you've created something magical. Thank you, Sage says later that night, dancing with Kieran under strings of lights in the garden. For seeing me, for believing in me, for loving me. Thank you, Kieran counters, for teaching me that immortality isn't about the years you live, but about the love you find within them. For showing me that power isn't in dominion, but in protection. For choosing me when you had every reason not to. Nearby, Lily is dancing with Marcus, standing on his feet while he waltzes her around the dance floor. She's laughing, completely at ease in this world that once seemed so foreign. Sage rests her head on Kieran's chest, listening to the heartbeat he maintains for her benefit. Do you think she'll remember this, when she's grown? I think she'll remember that her mother was brave enough to accept help, Kieran says, that she built a life from nothing, that she fell in love with a vampire and made it work. Those are powerful lessons. We haven't talked about it lately, Sage says carefully. About the immortality thing. About turning. Kieran's arms tighten fractionally around her. We don't have to talk about it now. I know, but I've been thinking about it. About the future. About growing old while you stay young. She pulls back to look at him. I'm not ready yet. I want to raise Lily as a human. Watch her grow up naturally. But after, when she's an adult, settled in her own life, I think I'd like to explore the possibility, if the offer still stands. Something blazes in Kieran's silver eyes. Hope, joy, relief. The offer will always stand, for as long as you want it. Forever, if that's what you choose. Forever, Sage repeats, testing the word. That's a long time. Is it long enough? Kieran asks. Sage smiles, pulling him down for a kiss that tastes like champagne and promises. With you? Forever might not be enough, but it's a good place to start. They dance until the stars come out, until Lily falls asleep on Annabeth's lap, until the last guests drift home and it's just the two of them in the garden. And when Kieran finally carries Sage inside, laughing at the traditional gesture, secure in his arms, she thinks about that scared waitress who thought she was nobody. That woman was wrong. She was never nobody. She was always exactly who she needed to be, brave enough to survive, strong enough to accept help, and courageous enough to believe in love when it found her. And if that's not a fairy tale worth telling, Sage doesn't know what is. The end comes years later, when Lily is grown and settled with her own family, when Sage has gray in her hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She and Kieran sit in the conservatory, where they shared their first real conversation, and she takes his hand. I'm ready, she says simply. Kieran's eyes search hers. You're certain? There's no going back once. I'm certain. I've lived a full human life. I've raised my daughter. I've built a career. I've loved you for 20 years. And I'm not ready to leave you. I want more time. I want forever. So he gives it to her. The turning is painful and difficult, and worth every moment. And when Sage wakes 3 days later with silver eyes and heightened senses, and eternity stretching before her, Kieran is there, holding her hand. Welcome back, he whispers. How long was I out? Sage asks. 72 hours. She sits up, testing her new body, feeling the power coursing through her veins. Well, she says, smiling at her husband of 2 decades, her partner of forever. We've got time to make up for. What should we do first? Kieran pulls her close, kissing her with the passion of someone who no longer has to fear losing his love to time. Everything, he says. We have forever. We can do everything. And they do. But that's a story for another time. For now, remember this. Sometimes salvation comes in unexpected packages. Sometimes it looks like a little girl with more courage than sense, breaking into a vampire king's home and demanding he save her mother. Sometimes it looks like a powerful man remembering that protection is a privilege, not a burden. Sometimes it looks like a scared woman choosing to be brave. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it looks like love. The kind that transcends species and circumstance. The kind that builds empires from ashes. The kind that proves fairy tales aren't just stories. They're possibilities. All you have to do is be brave enough to believe.